I think professional boundaries are essential to a mentoring relationship because it's supposed to be a healthy relationship. This is supposed to contribute not just to the mentee but also to the mentor, and therefore I think it's really important that we can outline what those boundaries are. And I think that primarily comes down to working within our scope of practice. You know, I'm not a skilled counsellor, so it's not in mine or my mentee's best interest to be stepping over that line. I think we've got to be really clear around setting expectations up front. So understanding what it is that we're both looking to get out of this relationship. And I am honestly often as upfront as saying what's in scope and what's out of scope. So kind of declaring where my expertise is. But I also think it's important to remember that part of the key to mentoring is to be there to facilitate, not to fix. And so outlining for the mentor or the mentee rather, right up front that I won't be able to answer every single one of your questions, but I'm here to be able to guide you to help find those answers yourself.
Some people leave it to be more implicit. I think it's important to be explicit about it, and in your first mentoring session to sit down and say, you know, these are the boundaries, this is how we're going to do it. And it's not just a discussion about process, and it's not just a discussion about content. It's a discussion about, you know, how it's going to work and what you're both there to do.
I think that a boundary can be crossed if your expectation as a mentee is that your mentor will find you a job. That's not what the mentor's there for. That's what a recruiter does. A mentor is there to, it may be coach you, it may be to give you guidance. It can be specific mentoring that you're looking for, or it might be general mentoring that you're looking for. I would also encourage it to be done in a professional environment, whether it's at your office, whether it's at a cafe and you're having a cup of coffee in the morning. You need to respect the other person's time, both of you, and you're going to be opening yourselves up to talking about your successes and also your failures. And having professional boundaries, whilst it's natural for a friendship to develop, you are in a very trusting relationship with somebody. Now, when I tell stories of my successes, you can tell them to the world if you like, but if I tell you stories of my failures, I'd really rather you didn't repeat them to other people in the marketplace. And just as similarly, if my mentee tells me stories of their failures, I'm not going to repeat them to other people. So you have to have that respect and you have to have that trust there for the relationship to work.
If a mentee has unrealistic expectations at the beginning about what this relationship is going to bring to them, it's probably doomed from the start. So a good conversation about the upfront kind of parameters, and that's basically, it's as simple as, you know, how often are we going to meet, where are we going to meet, how do you like to meet? But it goes further than that to establishing trust, establishing confidence, and being clear about those boundaries. And I think the other thing is, it just allows people to kind of check in and say, well, how are we tracking to that? And that I'm meeting your expectations, because if I'm not meeting your expectations, then this is not a good use of either of our time, and I want to be here to help you. So being clear about that up front and checking back in to make sure that we're on track is really beneficial as you move forward in your mentoring relationship.
The mentor must always be mindful of where the conversation is going to make sure boundaries aren't crossed. It can happen if the mentee is taking the conversation into where there may be a breach of confidence, there may be a conflict in professional responsibilities, or it may also happen at a more personal level. The mentor must have the confidence and courage to point out their concern that they're not feeling comfortable where the conversation is going to the mentee, and if the mentor and mentee cannot sort out that issue amongst themselves, it's important for the mentor to refer the issue back to the program coordinator. It may even be appropriate to end the relationship for the sake of all parties.
Crossing of boundaries in the professional relationship. I think if you start drifting into social chit-chat, which can be inevitable if you're getting on well, and I think it should actually be part of the conversation, but just keep it to a minimum. It's 5 minutes out of the 60 rather than 15 or 20. If you find a mentee is not turning up to meetings, not being engaged, then you've got to have the conversation with them. The mentor is giving up their own time to help the mentee. It's not really the other way around, although yes, the mentor gets a lot out of it as well. But I think you just have to have the conversation, find out if they're genuinely interested in the program, And if they're not and they can't commit, that's fine. But move over and let somebody else have a go.